apparently we are all on the naughty list, and our coal came in the shape of a Broncos loss to a 3-11 Patriots team on Christmas Eve. Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us for this Broncos postgame show. And this one on Christmas Eve, it feels like I can't remember a time where a loss stung quite this bad just because of what it means for the Denver Broncos moving forward.
Yeah, this one hurts. Probably should have seen it coming because the Broncos sure know how to ruin the holidays.
Man.
Let me just go through this for you.
Oh, God. It's a lot of L's. I looked this up earlier.
Christmas Eve 2023, loss to the Patriots, 26-23.
Yeah.
New Year's Day 2023.
We all remember.
Loss to the Chiefs, 27-24. Christmas 2022, 51-14 against the Rams. I did the day after New Year's Day. I included that in 2022, 34-13 to the Chargers. The day after Christmas 2021, 17-13 to the Vegas. Christmas Eve 2018, 27-14 to the Raiders. New Year's Eve 2017, 27-24 against the Chiefs. And Christmas Eve 2017, 27-11 against the Washington football team at the time. Those are the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 games on the holidays that the Denver Broncos have played.
It's not our time.
That is unbelievable.
Yeah, that's bad. I'm glad I didn't do the research. I'm glad you guys did.
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't have want to seen that.
Yeah, the pain. I know. Well, I was looking up how many holiday games you had played in, and you'd played in a number of them, and all L's on the road.
Wow.
I didn't want to bring that up in the pregame show. I was trying to keep the vibes positive, but Broncos have struggled during the holidays, and tonight obviously no different. They gave us that bit of hope, which I appreciate, but then to be let down the way that we just were there at the end with the kicker who missed the field goal and the extra point, somehow, I don't know how he hit the game winner when I've never seen a kicker as bad as their 4th round draft pick, but he did. And he's the final dagger.
I don't like the slow starts and then like the hopeful endings.
Yeah.
It makes my stomach hurt. It's like I got to go to the bathroom, but I can't. Like, it just puts me in this uncomfortable position. And I'd much rather us start fast and finish strong. I know it's hopeful to say, but it's just not a good feeling. You know, you never know what's going to happen or how this game's going to end.
And that leads to my big takeaway, which was that Sean Payton's game plan for this game was catastrophic, in my opinion. I tweeted it out around halftime, and I said, Sean Payton is calling this game like he believes the only way the Broncos could lose is if Russell Wilson loses the game for them. Mm-hmm. And I think that game plan was completely off base. And I think that game plan is the reason that they lost. You put the handcuffs on Russ the entire game, and that's not to say he was playing well, but you didn't really ever give him a chance to get into a rhythm. It's run, pass, run, pass, run, pass, run, pass.
Yep.
He didn't make any big, huge mistakes. He had a couple fumbles. I can't remember. I think the Broncos recovered both of them. But you can't call games scared, in my opinion. And I think that Sean Payton just came in this game being like, the defense is going to win this game. All we have to do is just not lose it. And what happened was Bailey Zappe just made just enough plays, and you made enough mistakes in other areas that it got you beat. So I'm really disappointed because I think Sean Payton has done a good job coaching this team, and I think that there's no chance that they would be in the run for the playoffs or would have been in the running for the playoffs if it weren't for Sean Payton. That being said, I just don't like, with 3 games left in the season against a bad team, going into a game at home playing not to lose. I just don't think that's the right mentality going into this game.
I feel you. But we all know what it's like to be hurt and have that girlfriend say she's not going to do that to you again. And then last week you play crazy against the Detroit Lions. Like, he doesn't want to give him the reins again. You know, he tried that. And I feel like he didn't want to get his heart broken and have the team lose because of the way Russell Wilson was playing. I don't think it was the right call. I think it worked out better when he did let Russ cook a little bit, but he was that hurt ex-boyfriend not trying to get hurt again.
So how much of this game can we point the finger at the relationship between Sean Payton and Russell Wilson?
I think it's a great question, and I think that if you want to go for a second big takeaway, I don't want to steal anyone's here.
Please, go ahead.
But it's that Sean Payton and Russell Wilson are headed for a separation. They're pulling the kids aside,
rocky.
saying you're still gonna get to see everyone, but maybe not at the same time. Yeah, we'll have 2 Christmases. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
You're gonna get gifts at 2 different times. I mean, that's where this feels like this is heading. Not to make it weird, but like we're in different bedrooms and we're not talking at the dinner table.
Yeah,
that's what this felt like. And, you can make the case that's the best thing for the Broncos long term, but it absolutely feels like this is the beginning of the end, the true beginning of the end for Sean Payton and Russell Wilson. If you can't trust your quarterback to not go win you the game, just to not lose you the game when the playoffs are on the line against a bad team, that's not your guy. And I think that was very clear tonight.
I agree with you because I feel like heading into this game last week, the sideline shenanigans, that was not the end, in my opinion. I feel like that was blown way out of proportion. I feel like the game plan tonight showed exactly how Sean Payton feels about Russell Wilson, which is exactly why I think for the remainder of this season and far into the offseason, we're going to be talking about the Broncos moving on from Russell Wilson, which is crazy given the money and the contract and this, that, whatever. But it is very clear that Sean Payton doesn't feel like he can win with Russ.
No, I don't think so either. And I feel like some of it's game plan, but I don't know if it's decisions by Russ. I mean, we were sitting there watching the game, and most of his throws were behind the line of scrimmage. I know
it's like at the Chargers game too.
Yeah, I know those are outlets, if nobody's open, but it's not like Sean's telling him like, hey, as soon as this ball snapped, get it out to the outside and we'll see what happens. I think he's making decisions that aren't favorable for the team. And so I just feel like it's kind of on both of them. We know Russ hasn't really played well without Sean, and I think he's still kind of in that mindset trying to do better. But like you said, I don't think they're a match made in heaven by any means.
Well, let's go back to the very beginning of this game because I feel like the Broncos could have been up by 2 touchdowns incredibly early. The first 2 possessions, the Broncos scored 0 points when they got the ball at the 4-yard line, thanks to a huge takeaway from DJ Jones. Unbelievable play. Wished it was a scoop and score, but there's no reason why the Broncos shouldn't have scored a touchdown on that.
Field goal would have been nice there,
Field goal or a field goal.
Anything.
Would have been nice.
Lost by 3.
And then the very next offensive possession.
Let me just be fair because
go ahead.
A lot of times as fans, we go for it. And then when it doesn't work, we go, wrong move.
Yeah.
All 3 of us watching the game said, just take the 3. Take the 3. It's a free 3 points to start the game.
Patriots can't score.
It's right there. Nothing really went right for you on the first 3 plays of that drive.
Yeah.
So just take your 3 and get out of there. And that's one where I can say, like, I was not pushing to go for it.
Right.
And those 3 points would have been really, really nice at the end of the game.
Their next offensive possession at the 41-yard line. This was something that you were bringing up when we were watching downstairs. You're like, how do we not have any points?
Yeah, it didn't make sense. We were starting off in such good field position, and just to come away with like nothing at that point, it just felt like the offense wasn't ready to play this game. And Ryan, when you talk about those 3 points, I mean, you're playing the Patriots.
Yep.
Not a very good offense. They haven't scored. They've only scored over 21 points one time the whole entire year. You think getting 3 early will kind of set the tone, at least put you on the board. Of course, Sean decided not to do that, but I think in hindsight, I think it's a very different game playing with a lead and getting points off a turnover to start the game than losing on a fourth down stop on the goal line.
Yep. What's your big takeaway, Todd?
My big takeaway is once we lost Cortland, it felt like we lost everything.
Great point.
We lost the running game. We lost the passing game. We had nothing to account for that huge loss. And it felt like a lot of times Russ was throwing 50-50 balls to guys who aren't 50-50 guys.
Yep.
And so we really missed Cortland, and we needed him the entire game.
Yeah, I think the impact that the absence of Cortland Sutton had on this game could not be overstated. I think in this situation, at this point in the season, Cortland Sutton really is the one guy that Russell Wilson trusts. It's not Jerry. We didn't see Jerry's first target until the end of the third quarter.
Yep, it might have been even in the fourth.
Maybe it was in the fourth. I have it listed here somewhere. I'll look for that in a second. But when Cortland is the one guy that Russ is constantly looking for, and he's not out there, I think we really saw him really struggling through his progressions. We saw him it felt like the wheels were like turning a little too slow. And at that point, the offense just really wasn't able to get things going. But late in the game, we saw him really starting to connect with some guys. We saw Lucas Kroll get in on the action. We saw Marvin, we saw guys getting involved. It was a little too late. And I don't know why that is. Why is this Sean Payton, Russell Wilson offense always just seemingly a little too late?
I don't know. I mean, I really do think it comes down to trust. And it's funny because this was a conversation that Broncos fans used to always have about John Elway early in his career.
Yeah.
John obviously ended up becoming known for his late game comebacks.
Yep. And
the further away we get from that, the more that you forget the reason that he had to make all those comebacks, which is because, in the pre-Mike Shanahan era, Dan Reeves was calling the game incredibly conservatively until the end when he had to say, all right, John, just go out there and play backyard football. And obviously John was amazing at it. He'd take the snap, run around in the backfield for a while, scramble out, throw a missile to someone down the field. And there's a part of the coaching aspect of this that I understand, which is like you can't call that play. You can't just call just go get us a first down play.
It.
You have to try to work within a system. But for whatever reason, Sean doesn't like the risks that Russ takes in those situations. And, you see it. He's not completely wrong for that, right?
Yeah.
We've seen Russ make some boneheaded throws, some boneheaded plays. I mean, even the third down throw on the first drive of the game is just an absolute prayer that almost gets intercepted.
Yeah, I feel like there was like 3 or 4 almost intercepted balls tonight.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, the one to Jerry late in the game that almost cost them the game tying drive.
Yeah.
And then, the other thing is he gets loose with the ball. He gets it stripped when he runs around. So, I understand part of that with Sean Payton, where he's just like, those plays will lose us a game if they happen in the first or second quarter.
Yeah.
And in the fourth quarter, when you have no choice, you just let Russ go. And Russ is obviously really clutch. It's one of his best attributes is something clicks with him late in the game where he just says, I got to make the right play and I got to go do something with my feet. And he makes it. But the thought of going into a game against the Patriots, who have the best run defense in the NFL, and thinking you're going to run pass your way to a win, to me is why we're sitting here with all of our Christmas Eve ruined.
Were you surprised at how much they tried to run the ball to start the game?
Yes.
I felt like that package that they got into late in the game where they ran empty a couple times, we should have gotten to that much earlier because their lineup, especially even their linebackers like Bentley, he's not a coverage guy. So I think you get those guys out in space, it allows your guys to create and have opportunity. And we just tried to run into the face of a defense that was not giving us anything to start the game.
Right.
What's your big takeaway, Alexis?
Mine is somehow or another, Bailey Zappe looked like a Hall of Famer tonight at certain points. There were moments in this game where I was surprised by how he was able to pick apart the defense. There were moments with J-Mac, who I'm convinced is, one of the brightest spots on this Denver defense right now. And he made him look silly.
Yeah, he had an off game.
He had a really off game. And Bailey Zappe finished 25 of 33 for 256 yards and 2 touchdowns. He had 117 passer rating. I was not expecting that kind of showing from Bailey Zappe. In the pregame show, we talked about it when we were this Patriots offense is awful. They're the worst in the league in almost every statistical category. And then tonight, they came out and had a huge third quarter. What happened in the third quarter defensively that you saw from the Broncos there, Todd? Because that's when the wheels kind of fell off.
Yeah, I felt like we didn't make adjustments well. Well, really, hats off to them. They made a couple of big-time catches. There was guys in position, not terrible coverage, and those guys just came up with some big catches. And then for us, not only defensively, but special teams, we made some bonehead plays.
Yeah, that was a
Mims
brutal
with the
one.
fumble on the goal line. That's another 7 points there. I think just overall, we didn't come out ready to play the second half, and that's been our problem. I mean, it started off with a sack on the offense in the very first play of the third quarter, and then it just went downhill from there. But we haven't been a second half team, except for like 5 minutes into the fourth quarter, we turn it on. But like to start the second half, we've been terrible all year.
Yeah, it was a 3-and-out to start the second half. What happened to drawing up a second half script during halftime? What is that not working clearly?
I mean, I think Todd pointed to it. Like once they lost Cortland, I felt like they were a rudderless ship. And Russ, honestly, I think was just that's
Lost.
Another thing is he was forced in the end of the game to trust guys. And look at Jerry and look at Brandon Johnson. But you mentioned Bailey Zappe, and I think it's fair to point out there's not a person in the secondary that had a good game tonight.
Yeah,
and that includes
really
Pat
struggled.
Surtain. And we love him. He's obviously one of the best corners in the game, but tonight was not his night. And there's a lot of people in my mentions right now blaming the loss on him. I don't think that's
no.
That's not fair.
Yeah.
But I think it is fair to say you needed one big play from Pat tonight.
Yeah.
And you didn't get it. I know he had a tackle short of the sticks late in the game that forced a punt, but Vance Joseph is saying we're going to blitz Bailey Zappe and force him to get the ball out of his hands quickly, and we're going to trust guys like Pat Surtain on the back end to make plays for us. And unfortunately, Javonte Parker made some really nice plays on Pat, but you just need Pat to find the ball one time, knock it away, and we might be talking about a Broncos win here. So, it just wasn't his night. He didn't play very well. And you have to give credit to Bailey Zappe and Devontae Parker for great connections on those plays. It's not like Pat got burned and was out of position and gave up touchdowns. It's like they threw it up in one-on-one coverage, and they were great throws and great catches. And you'd love to see Pat get his head around and get a hand on it, but he was in position to make the plays. He just didn't make them.
What's crazy is Pat, heading into this game, led the Broncos with 10 passes defensed and allowed just 4.2 yards per target in man coverage this year. And then you see Bailey Zappe connect with Parker, 30 yards on that play late in the third. And then it came up with that Getsky 11-yard touchdown.
Yeah, Gesicki, yeah.
Gesicki. What did you just say?
Gesicki.
I can't even say it. It was one of those moments, that touchdown to a tight end, where I'm just like, why can't we cover tight ends? In the red zone specifically.
Yeah, and
why is that such a pain point for this team?
Well, I don't know. Todd could probably answer that better than me.
Yeah.
My issue on that play specifically, and it was part of a larger issue throughout the game, was a lack of getting to Zappe. The pass rush collapsed behind him. He steps up, kind of toes the line of scrimmage, and just waits for Gesicki to come open on that back line, especially when you're in man coverage, which I think they were, in zone coverage, which I think they were on that play. Your eyes are on the quarterback, and that back line is always going to be very exposed because those guys are just running up and down it. And Justin was this close to making that play, but another person who didn't have his best game today.
Yeah. We can't keep bad mouthing our tight ends, man. Kroll keeps coming through.
No, I was bad mouthing the defense and how hard it is for our defense to cover tight ends. I didn't say anything about Kroll. I think Kroll had a great game.
I thought you said, why can't we have tight ends?
No,
I said, why can't we cover them?
Why can't we cover tight ends?
Oh, yeah. I think our problem is that we get caught in these situations where I think we would do a much better job in man coverage, but we know that we can't get home with man blitzes. So we try to do either zone blitzes or just play zone and four-man rush. But our four-man rush isn't strong enough to get there with four. So then you have guys sitting in zone coverage who are losing guys through their zone who don't normally play a lot of zone coverage.
Okay.
And they would do a much better job rushing. But then you have a limited amount of guys pass dropping if you have everybody rushing. It's a tough spot to be in, but it's kind of how our defense operates.
Is there one play that you guys can point to where the Broncos lost this game? Or call?
If I had to point to a play, I would point to the kick return.
Okay.
You're getting the ball down 9, right? I think that's right. And you all of a sudden, in the blink of an eye, are down 16. That type of play is usually a death blow. Now, credit to the Broncos. They responded incredibly well to that situation, and they absolutely had to go score immediately, and they did it. But, yeah, I mean, that's a huge swing. Goes from, I guess it was a 2-score game to a 2-score game, but when you lose the game by 3 points at the end, giving up 7 points on a kick return to you is very, very bad.
I'm gonna have to say it was the first drive that we had. I think it was the goal line stop that the Patriots had. I think if you look back, whether we get 3, definitely should have had 7 right there. There's no reason why we don't get 7 points, but either one of those points, I think the game is still being played. We maybe go into overtime, or we flat out win the game. I think coming away with nothing right there is got to be the reason we lost the game. Like, that set the tone, and that was a big momentum shift to even start the game. It was ugly from there on out.
I think. Sorry, go ahead.
Not to relitigate that decision, but it happens, and it's a part of a long line of really questionable decisions by Sean Payton in this game. And Todd, you know this. The flow of a game is just so important.
For sure.
And so often when you lose a game that you were supposed to win, you look back and you just say, man, that game was just weird. You know, the flow just never got there. And usually a free 3 points at the beginning of the game is such a great boost to the whole team to just be like, oh my God, all we did was blink our eyes and we're already up 3-0. And I realize that Sean Payton is thinking, well, if we can be up 7-0, it might just cause the Patriots to tuck their tails and go home. But you have to have a little bit of self-control there and just be like, we made one defensive play and we have a chance to be up 3-0, 2 minutes into the game. Not to mention we know we're getting the second half kick. It's basically like the game just started 3-0 Broncos. Like, you just have to take that.
You got to. And like you said, it's a big momentum boost. And if you watch the game, you understand that the game was all momentum. It was either all Patriots or it was either all Broncos. It's a momentum-based game. So I think starting the game off, you just want just a little bit of momentum on your side, and I think the 3 points would have did that.
Yeah, for sure. There were a couple calls that were a little iffy as well. We'll get to one here in just a second. But first, if you haven't already, please open up that bottle of Breckenridge Distillery that you got for Christmas and take a shot, because we know you need it, because this one stings really, really bad. Like you guys know, Breckenridge Distillery is the world's highest distillery, founded in 2008, and they have such amazing blends. Their blended bourbon whiskey is a high rye mash American-style whiskey. Breckenridge Bourbon is one of the most highly awarded craft bourbons, and it really is like my personal favorite. It's so tasty. They have tons of award-winning spirits. They offer an immersive guest experience as well. And they will be out at the Broncos watch parties and tailgates. Another tailgate next week, like I mentioned earlier today, next week there for the Chargers game. So be sure to head on over to Breckenridge Distillery, where their products are available in all 50 states. Shop your local retailer or visit BreckenridgeDistillery.com for home delivery of award-winning Breckenridge spirits. Après anywhere.
And shout out to our friends over at Bet365. At Bet365, we don't do ordinary. We believe every sport should be epic. Right now, new customers can choose between 2 offers when they open an account at Bet365. Use the code DNVR365 to sign up, deposit $10, and choose between either the first bet safety net offer by placing a bet up to $1,000, and if your qualifying bet loses, you receive a match refund in bonus bets. Or you can bet and get offer and place a bet for $5 or more and get $150 in bonus bets. Whatever the sport, whatever the moment, is never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 and older and physically located in Colorado. Please gamble responsibly. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER.
Oh, you got the short one. That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not the long John. You know what I'm saying?
So one thing that happened during the game that I just wanted to point out, just because we kind of asterisked it as, hey, like, that was kind of an interesting play. The Javonte Williams fumble, that it seemed like he was down by contact. That could have also been a game-changing moment here for the Broncos if they would have maintain possession of the football, but that was one of their 2 fumbles lost, I think, tonight. Yeah. And it seemed, as much as the Patriots didn't come out on their next drive and score, it was one of those momentum shifting moments. What did you guys think of that moment in the game, and how much impact did it have?
This is my big issue with the whole call on the field, with the power that the call on the field has. There's so much that rests on the call on the field.
Yep.
And this one is so clear to me, but because, there's a hand in there a little bit, they can just end up having the cop out of saying the call on the field stands. For those of you who don't know, it wasn't Javonte who was almost down by contact. It was Ben Powers, who Javonte fumbles. Ben Powers clearly dives on the ball, and I think he holds it, and it's like 1,000, 1,000. And then you see them rip for the ball, and those pileups are obviously usually, just chaos.
Yes.
And a lot of times something like that happens, but it's at the bottom of a pile where you can't see, and the refs at the end just have to go with whoever has the ball. This one to me was like, he's got his whole body on it.
Seemed like forever.
He has it, when we were kids, we used to say, like, I have it chested, right? Like, I have it, if I'm holding it on my chest, like, it's mine. And he had it chested, and I felt like it was his for a long enough time that the refs could go back and say, yeah, he had that ball. But because the call on the field was fumble, I just feel like it's an easy cop-out for him.
Yeah, I don't get how you can't just be reasonable in that sense. Like, I understand the call on the field, but like, let's be reasonable. You can tell that his body's completely on it. And then you see the Patriots defender yank it from him. Like, if it's yours, you don't have to yank it. You have possession of it. So I think it was very clear that he didn't have it. And like you said, it was a big momentum shift. And we were surprised. We all were waiting for them to come back from commercial and say that
that's Broncos
calls
ball.
are overturned.
Yeah.
But we were wrong, man. And I think that they were wrong, actually. Not we were wrong. They were wrong.
Yeah, we didn't do anything wrong.
Refs don't know what they're talking about. And, they missed one.
Anything else that you guys felt like the Broncos were robbed of tonight in any capacity? Or was this kind of a self-inflicted loss?
No, this was self-inflicted.
Where you can't really point a finger, even if there was like a moment like that with Ben. Like, it's like, well, doesn't really matter because there was enough self-inflicted wounds. I'm
trying to think, but I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think there was anything where you think, oh man, that was a brutal call. That really cost him. Another one that's worth mentioning, Will Lutz, what was it, 56 at the end of the half?
Oh, that miss.
Would have been really nice to have.
Yeah.
So, to me, I think when you look at this game and you're saying, okay, well, what are the reasons the Broncos lost? I don't think the refs make the list.
Yeah. You guys mentioned earlier the whole run, pass. What was interesting was how much we actually saw Jaleel McLaughlin involved tonight. I wish I could say, oh, would you guys like to see that moving forward? Because it doesn't really matter at this point. But was something working with how the Broncos were utilizing Jaleel, given the fact that Javonte really does seem to be struggling, especially here late in the season?
Yeah, I think that his ability to capture the edge really helps the team, and then also his ability to make guys miss one-on-one, whether it's getting out on routes or finding him in the flat. He does a great job of making guys miss. He's small, but he's shifty, so he does a great job of getting the extra yards, similar to how Javonte does, but just little different fashion. So I think he's great when it's going well. It's tough when you have 3 good backs. You want to make sure everybody gets their touches so they can stay warm and stay active. And sometimes it's just not enough footballs to go around.
Yeah.
Javonte, 2.2 yards per carry on 11 carries. Jaleel, 6.2 yards per carry on 6 carries. Javonte doesn't look like himself.
Yeah.
He hasn't for weeks. And I think there's a few reasons why. I think, probably not having a proper off season. And, just kind of jumping into things as soon as he was healthy, which, of course, is admirable because he came off of what we thought was a catastrophic injury for his career and made it happen. Week 1 was out there on the field with this team. But, I just wonder if all of the rehab throughout the offseason didn't ever really allow his body to get rested and recovered. And now, you're 15, 16 games into the season, and he's just hit a little bit of a wall. The other thing, though, is that defenses know what the Broncos want to do. They're going to go run, pass. They're going to try to pound the ball with Javonte Williams. And, I'm sure one of the advanced statistics out there can tell you how often Javonte Williams is seeing a stacked box. I guess it's up there with the highest in the league.
That's true.
Jaleel has a little bit more wiggle, a little bit more speed to the edge, like you mentioned, and it allows him to get out there. But this is kind of stuff that I feel like you have to know and go into the game. I'd like to see a little more P. Ryan out there because I feel like he makes a positive impact when he's on the field. But yeah, Javonte's not himself, and I don't think the game plan that he's been getting the last few weeks helps him because teams are keying in on him.
Yeah, and I can't say that there was one time in the game that I felt like he was touched after 2 yards. All of his first contacts are coming at the line of scrimmage or maybe like 1 yard behind it. It's not like he's getting a lot of clear running lanes. They're on him quick, and maybe like you said, it's because of the scouting. It's because they know what we're running. But I mean, I know it sucks for him because it's tough to keep creating these big runs, having to dodge 4 guys and trying to make something happen rather than having a lane, being able to make one guy miss, and now that's a 12-yard run. He doesn't have those same opportunities, I feel like, anymore.
The Broncos have now lost 3 of their last 4 games. Throughout this stretch, what would you guys say is the biggest thing missing? Let's start on the offensive side of the ball, offensively, for the Broncos.
The run game. I think
a solid run game.
Yeah, exactly.
They're leaning towards it, but it's not working.
Well, yeah, they want to run the ball, but it's not there. And, I think it's just becoming predictable. If you remember, going all the way back to the Phillip Lindsay seasons, most of his work was done in the beginning of the season. And then at the end of the season, teams were saying, okay, whoever it was at the time, Case Keenum's not going to beat us down the field. So we can bring 8 down into the box and stop Phillip Lindsay in the run game. And, you don't have to worry about them beating you down the field. It happened again, I want to say, in the next season when it was Joe Flacco. And it's funny watching Joe Flacco just bomb the ball all over the field for the Browns because he wasn't doing that for the Broncos.
Heck no.
And they did the same thing to him, and they just wanted to say, okay, let's just take away what they do best, which is run the ball with Phillip Lindsay. And now it's happening again, but the Broncos do have a downfield passing game. It just especially wasn't there tonight once Cortland was out.
Yeah.
I guess their downfield passing game is incredibly one-dimensional.
Yeah.
It's not hitting deep over routes. No. It's not hitting deep ins or deep outs. It's just throw it up for Cortland.
It's just Cortland. 50-50 balls to Cortland.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree. I actually don't feel like the offensive production is that much worse than what we had in our winning streak.
Okay.
What I feel like is the problem is our takeaways.
Turnovers.
We're not getting turnovers at the same rate that we were. We're not getting turnovers at the 4-yard line. I can say that, but we kind of got one tonight and didn't do anything with it. But just throughout the winning streak, I think we had so many turnovers that put us in such great positions that, at some point we had to score,
Yeah. Were you surprised, I guess, that I thought this defense was going to eat tonight?
I
thought we were going to see 3-4 takeaways from this defense and to only have 1. I was shocked.
We talked about it. They didn't have their on paper starting running back. They didn't have their starting tight end. They didn't have their starting wide receiver.
Yeah.
And it's not like any of those guys were all pros anyway, but at least they were their starters. They were all gone. So we felt like it was going to be a great night for the defense. And I don't know. We didn't show up, man.
They were just off. As a whole, as somebody who knows Sean Payton well, you know what he wants to do. What is he unable to do with this Broncos offense that is generally a staple of a Sean Payton offense?
I think it's being able to create and make plays on the fly.
Okay.
I think being in the building with him and with Drew, they created a lot of plays on the sideline, and then also all the way up until the game even started. They may put a play or 2 in Saturday. They're always creating. I don't feel like he has that ability right now with Russ. Whether it's Russ learning the playbook, communication, understanding of one another, they don't have the ability for Sean to keep going back to Russ and say, "Oh, I just watched the tape. I think this will work. Let's throw this in 5 minutes before the game." That's what they don't have right now.
Yeah.
I think it's a 3-level passing game. Obviously, it's hard to compare anyone to Drew Brees, but when Sean Payton was at his best, he is creating these beautiful offensive concepts that rely on the quarterback to know what he's looking at and to know going into the play, okay, if they're off, we're going to the short pass. If not, if they're man, we're going to the long ball to the outside receiver. And if they're in a zone, we're gonna wait for that deep end to come open, or maybe there's a wheel route going up the sideline that we have to wait for them to get past the linebackers. Like Drew Brees was just so good at knowing why the play was called. The play is always going to be called for a reason. No offensive coordinator is going to hit it 100%. For the most part, the offensive coordinator is saying, okay, I expect we're going to see this, so I'm calling this. And if not, we have an out on the play to get to something else. Russell Wilson just doesn't play anything like Drew Brees. And it's not Russ's fault necessarily. Like, he's just a different quarterback than Drew Brees. But what makes Sean great is essentially just saying, like, hey, I'm going to call you a play. If you know where to go with the ball, it's probably going to be open.
Right.
And that's just not the way Russ plays. And I think Sean Payton has tried really hard to change some of his ways to be better at what Russell Wilson does. But in doing that, you're cutting off what Sean Payton does so well.
Yeah. Anything you want to add to that, Todd?
And just to add on to that, like, it's why Russ has been so good in the red zone this year, because Sean can scheme open receivers. Now, Russ has also just made some incredible plays. The Kroll one is kind of like a microcosm of a lot of the plays Russ has made in the red zone this year. But there's also just been guys open, and just good schemes to get guys open. But it's just not. It's not a perfect marriage in terms of helping each other at what each other do best.
Yeah, I agree. And like you said, I think he's able to hit the open guy. Russ can find the open guy if he's running scot-free. And I think that just don't want to keep comparing him to Drew. I think Drew threw guys open more than Russ does. I think Russ likes finding the open guy wide open, making nice plays. And he doesn't want to, do the tight coverage plays. Unless it's Courtland Sutton, then he'll throw it up and let him have like a 50-50 ball.
Okay.
I mean, Michael Thomas became a all-pro receiver, and everyone said all he runs is one route, the slant. How often have you seen the Broncos complete a slant this year? I mean, it's few and far between. And Cortland, honestly, if you just take Michael Thomas out of that offense and put Cortland in there, you're assuming he's probably going to, be called a slant merchant too online. Because it's just so easy for them to complete that pass over and over and over again. Russ doesn't like working in that area of the field. And part of it, honestly, has to do with his height. Like, when he throws those short passes over the middle, a lot of times they're getting knocked down. So, again, it's not a symbiotic relationship.
Well, speaking of symbiotic relationships, the one between Prize Picks and DNVR is a very symbiotic relationship. This is so cool. I don't know if you guys have checked it out yet, but you absolutely have to. You have to head on over to Prize Picks because they are the largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America. It really is just the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports because it's just you against the numbers. So instead of battling thousands of players, including pros and sharks, you really just pick more than and less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections and just watch your winnings roll in. For example, like this is my favorite part about Prize Picks is because you can kind of check out these like special leagues. So a league that's created specifically for combo projections that includes 2 or more players from different sports and leagues. So, for example, Jamal Murray and Courtland Sutton on a 10.5 combo of 3 points made and receptions. Like this week, I'm selecting Nikola Jokic for more than 29 points and Aaron Gordon for more than 10 rebounds. So you can really do 2 different things at once, and it just gives you more opportunities to win big prizes. So go to prizepicks.com/DNVR, use code DNVR for a first deposit match up to $100. This is daily fantasy sports made easy. Prizepicks.com/DNVR. Use that code and check them out.
Also, shout out to our friends over at Breckenridge Brewery. If you want to be the hero of your family's Christmas, go get one of the Breckenridge Brewery Christmas Ale mini kegs. It's just like such a great addition to any
Such a good
holiday
idea.
party. It looks beautiful. It's got, all the Christmas designs on there. It's like a perfect amount of beer for a party, or at least like a small family party. Prop it up, in the bar, pump out some Christmas ale. Delicious way. And also, if you don't have time to go pick one up tomorrow before you're heading down to your family Christmas, they usually go on sale after Christmas, and they're still just as delicious as they were. So maybe bring one to a New Year's party or something like that. Whatever it is, though, Breckenridge Brew has you covered with all of their delicious beers, and you can find out where you can find Breck Brews near you with the Breckenridge locator. Go to breckbrew.com and use the beer locator to find the nearest ones to you.
Definitely do that. Okay, have to talk a little postseason. Patriots 4-11, eliminated, and they managed to take the Broncos down with them. They now just have a 5% playoff probability. And yeah, that number, given the fact that it was going to be what, like a 45% chance if they had won this game.
Yep.
It was going to be tough, but
Well, and you were essentially just getting into a logjam.
Yeah.
You got so much help this weekend with almost everyone falling to 8-7 that you needed to, and you would have just entered yourself right in there with the Chargers and the Raiders waiting for you down the stretch, and now you find yourself really up against it. Crazy enough, they still do have a chance, but I don't think any Broncos fans really want to hear about their 7% chance or whatever it is
right,
tonight.
4, 5, whatever. Is it 5? Yeah.
5%.
Thanks. Yeah. So because of that, I know you are. Because of that, I think we can maybe bring up our Bet365 top 5 and get into the top 5 reasons this Broncos team is more than likely missing the playoffs this year.
Ooh. Number 1 for me is the slow start.
Yep, I'm right there with you.
Like, it's so funny that we're having to live and die on every play here late in the season when you lost 17-16 to the Raiders in week 1 with a missed extra point and another missed field goal from Will Lutz. And then you lose 35-33 to the Commanders in a game that you had, what was it, a 20-point lead in week 2? Let's see. I can pull it up really quick. The Broncos were up 21-3 in that game, and they end up losing to the Commanders. If you just win one of those, we're not talking about the season being over tonight. Then, of course, you lose 70-20 to the Dolphins. I don't think we can relitigate that one and say they could have won that one.
Yeah.
But the Broncos start 0-3, and they have a miraculous comeback against the Bears. Then they lose to the Jets at home. So those early season losses, especially the first 2, are why the Broncos are not making the playoffs right now. And it's a little bit tough to swallow just because it was so early in the season before, Sean Payton really had his finger on the pulse of what this team was. And, I think if you were to play those teams later in the season, you might get a different result. Obviously, the Broncos lost to a 4-11 team tonight. So 3-11 coming in. You can't guarantee anything in the NFL, but those 2 losses specifically, I think, are my number 1 reason.
I think the number 2 reason is turnover luck, as they call it, happening.
You guys are literally reading my mind.
Are we?
And I'm trying to think of more.
He's like, now I need more.
Now I keep thinking of more numbers, but go ahead.
Turnover. Well, just help me build off of this then, Todd. I think that turnover luck came at a really good time during the season, but we need it more now. It came between weeks 8 and
Can I push back on this?
12.
Uh-oh.
Sure.
We
wouldn't be here.
I just don't think it's number 2.
Okay.
Because turnover luck is also part of the reason why the Broncos are in the conversation for.
Okay. Let's Command A, copy it all, because we're going to move it down to 4 or 5.
I'm cool with that.
Okay, and then we'll just get back to it here in a second. This was just the next thing that came to mind.
Yeah.
So let's throw it at 4 for now, and then we'll think of something a little less of the reason. Todd, now it's on you, my guy.
Oh, my gosh.
Number 2 reason why this Broncos season is most likely over. We could talk about the relationship between Sean and Russ.
Yeah, I think that's high on the list. I think that Russ as a player, I think is high on my list too.
You could just type in Russell Wilson then.
Yeah. his inability to be what the team needs at times. I think that it was very rare this year that we felt like we won games because of Russell Wilson. And I felt like for us to make the playoffs, we need a quarterback that is leading our team, not just capitalizing sometimes off of the position our defense puts him in.
Okay. Interesting. Because I know Russ, leads the league in fourth quarter comebacks this year. What is it, 4
This team
or 5?
is so confusing
I know.
in that way because Russ is, statistically, Russ has played well.
But when you look at the games.
No, I know.
Yeah, there's numbers and there's the eye test.
It feels like every game kind of follows the same script. I don't know how exactly to phrase this one, but I don't know if it's too on the nose for what we were just talking about. But it's like the offense isn't dynamic whatsoever.
Yeah, very
Vanilla.
Yep. And I don't know if I don't like vanilla offense. I don't think captures what I'm trying to say.
Predictable.
It's
Bland.
like
dry.
It's
flat.
like one dimensional, I guess.
Yeah.
Even though they could.
Say 1D.
Did you say you don't know how to spell dimensional? I like that.
Just write non-dynamic offense, I guess. If you have to, I would say that it's one-dimensional, but it's there's nothing special about this offense. There's no one thing that you can say, oh, they do that really well. There's nothing that you can say if you need a drive to start the third quarter to get yourself out of a hole or to take the reins of the game that you can say, oh, let's make sure we lean on this because that's what we do really well. They're not great in play action. They're not great at running the ball. They're not great at throwing the ball. It's just like they're able to kind of pull it out of their ass when they have to at times, but they don't have anything. They don't have any identity on offense.
Right. I feel like the identity that they attempted to take on was a run-first team.
Yeah.
What's interesting, though, like to kind of build off of what you're saying is I'm just wondering, like, did they really tap into – I'm not saying that this is the most talented offense in the league, but did they really tap into it? Did we see enough targets to Jerry Jeudy? We didn't. Like you mentioned earlier, it actually did come like midway through the fourth quarter was the first target. I don't know why I thought it was late in the third. It was like midway through the fourth quarter that we saw that first target to Jerry Jeudy tonight. Like, is Sean Payton and or Russell Wilson getting the most out of their weapons?
No, because I think in order for us to run the ball, we have to have some threat of a pass. And I feel like it's really the opposite. Like, if we're not running well, we're not passing well either. So, and then we're not really running right now out of different personnels. Like,
Yeah.
everything's 12 personnel, 21 personnel, big bodies. Like, you kind of understand the game plan. You kind of know what's coming as the defense. We're not catching anybody by surprise. There's no zone read like there was earlier in the year out of 11 personnel, catching defenses on their toes. Like, we've become very vanilla in our approach to the run game and attacking other teams.
Yeah, for sure. Really quick, Zac Stevens is on the line. So really quick before we get to Zac.
Maybe Zac can give us number 5.
He's going to give us number 5 for sure. I just want to mention for the turnover luck portion, in the last 4 weeks, like I mentioned, the Broncos are 1-3 in those games, and they've had 3 turnovers in that time.
Yep.
3 takeaways, I guess I should say. Where clearly that is a massive drop off, and we all knew it was like unsustainable.
I was going to say,
unquote.
is it better to almost like turnover inconsistencies?
I like that. Yeah. Hey, inconsistencies.
Yeah, you know how to spell this stuff. Don't sell yourself short.
I swear on my mom.
Throw it in a text, and it'll let you know.
Yeah, Google it. Yeah. Okay, and when you get a second, let's bring in Zac Stevens because I do want to get his thoughts on this, and maybe he can help us provide the 5th reason
Also,
why the
it's-
Broncos will most likely
we'll
miss
fix
the
the
playoffs.
graphic later.
We'll fix the graphic. Before we post it, we'll fix the graphic. Damn,
Okay.
Zac Stevens. Look at the Christmas fit with the turtleneck underneath the the holiday jacket.
I see you.
We see you.
Yeah, I tried to do my best, Todd Davis, and I felt pretty silly sitting front and center talking to Sean Payton and Russell Wilson after the game, after what was supposed to be like a great night before Christmas, and it turns into now everyone's Christmas is ruined. Broncos country, the players, what a disappointing night, and it's freezing cold out here too. So everyone that came here, 16,000 no-shows, that's a F ton. But the 60,000 that were here got to freeze their asses off and then watch just a terrible, terrible game, which absolutely did end the Broncos season. And that is the most disappointing locker room I have ever been in for the season not being over still, because they know, just like everyone else, that the season's over. You guys are right in why the Broncos are going to lose the playoffs or miss the playoffs to 5 reasons. And everyone knows now. And you guys know Russell Wilson. He's the ultimate, believe. And even today he was talking as if the season was over. Obviously he didn't say it in those words, but that's what happens when you lose to a 3-11 team at home, when everything else today went your way in the playoff race.
Yeah, Zach, I don't think anybody believed that the Broncos were going to win this game as loudly as you did throughout the entire week. You mentioned it a million times over that you're not worried. Brian Baldinger, was on this show on Wednesday and said that there was absolutely nothing to worry about this Patriots offense. And man, there's a lot of people just eating their words, licking their wounds tonight because no one expected this from the Patriots. And I know you didn't. So how are you feeling as you watched that game unfold?
Well, I mean, the offense was absolutely inept. There was nothing to worry about the Patriots offense except for 1 or 2 plays. And credit to Bailey Zappe for putting a couple of balls exactly where they needed to be. Bless you, Ryan. If Bailey Zappe is going to have 2 perfect passes with Pat Surtain and great coverage, if they're going to be able to hit on those, then, well, the offense is going to have to do more than 110 yards in the first 3 quarters. That's how much offense the Broncos had, 110 yards. So really the Broncos offense was anemic until the very end, until the 4th quarter, when they were able to put up over 160 yards of offense. But when you get to that point, and people, I'm going to discredit a little bit what the Broncos did on offense in the 4th quarter, because you just can't rely on the hero ball every week to save you. And that's what the Broncos have lived on. That's what Russell Wilson has lived on. And you can't do that week in and week out. And if you can't do it against the 3-11 team, you got to stop relying on it. The Broncos passing game was so bad in so many different ways. And it just felt like in the first 3 quarters that Sean Payton had 0 trust in Russell Wilson and was not allowing Russell Wilson to do anything. I think at one point, I don't know if it was halftime or right around then, Russ had 8 completions. 7 of them were to running backs. Or 7 of them were to running backs or a tight end. And the 1 completion to a receiver was to Marvin Mims behind the line of scrimmage. I mean, there was just no trust, seemingly, when you watch these games from Sean Payton to Russell Wilson. And that's why after the game, Russell Wilson is being asked about his future in Denver. There's still 2 more games left. Russell Wilson still hasn't started his 5-year, $240 million contract. And there's already questions about his future with the Broncos. And it's because we just saw his head coach have no trust in him. And then so Russ said the difference between the first 3 quarters and the last quarter was that the Broncos went up tempo. Well, why can't you do up tempo all the time? Well, because defenses aren't going to allow you just to dink and dunk when you're down 16 points. They'll let you do that when you're down 16 points. They play you a very different way when the game is in the balance and the game is close. And so that's the difference. It's not just go up tempo more often. No, it's a lot of things need to change.
Zach, go ahead.
God. I was just going to ask you real quick about the start when you mentioned that, most of those passes early on were to running backs or tight ends. It's always tough watching the game on TV because they only give you one view. And it felt like he was always checking it down to the outside, like he wasn't taking time to get through his progressions. Did you see open receivers that he just wasn't missing, or did it feel like everybody was covered and he was, taking his best option?
Yeah, a combination. But there definitely were guys where that were open that Russ just did not want to make a mistake. And we've seen that throughout the year. I mean, in the first 2-3 weeks of the season, Russell Wilson had 2 300-yard passing games. We have not seen that since, because Sean Payton has really limited what Russ is able to do. And so that's exactly what was happening in this game as well. It was one read, check it down. And that's what it was. Also, Cortland Sutton going out. We know Cortland Sutton is the Broncos' best receiver. He's their best playmaker in the passing game. But on top of that, Cortland Sutton is Russell Wilson's best friend in the passing game. He is his safety net. He is the guy that he trusts. And when Cortland wasn't out there, there was just no one for Russ to trust down the field. And so that's what led to a lot of those dink and dunks.
Zach, in your opinion, what is the number one reason the Broncos lost this game?
Oh, man. Absolute inept offense. I mean, I think it was like 108 yards of offense in the first 3 quarters. 3 quarters. 100 yards of offense in total passing offense. I think heading into the fourth quarter or right around somewhere in the third quarter, 50 yards of passing offense. 50 yards of passing offense. So the running game, I think, was good in the first half and then fell off in the second half completely. That's when the passing game picked up in the fourth quarter. But this offense, and just the thing that just I kept coming back to. This isn't necessarily against Russell Wilson, but it's Sean Payton, no belief in Russell Wilson. And I think that was on just full display tonight.
I'm going to press you. Who was the biggest reason for the inept offense?
Well, if your head coach doesn't trust your quarterback and isn't going to let him unleash, you blame one of those two. And so you got to have to take a side. Do you trust Russell Wilson or do you trust Sean Payton? And I think that Russell Wilson isn't going to be back next year. So I guess I'll put it on Russ because Sean is saying he does not trust Russell Wilson. But I just, the lack of trust there is wild. In a game that you absolutely must have, you don't trust your starting quarterback. It's a bummer all the way around.
Yeah, and you're going to be front and center at all those pressers for a long time coming, so you don't need to be throwing Sean under the bus this early, right?
I didn't mean it like that. I meant what I meant it was I don't think Russ is going to be back next year, and I think that is Sean sending a very clear message as to why he couldn't trust him. And so I think Sean is putting the blame on Russ. Although after the game, when asked about Russ's performance, Sean took the ultimate high road. Sean said, I was proud of how Russ battled. And to me, that was even more so of like, man, he's not going to kick him on his way out. Now, this is, again, just how I'm interpreting all of this. But Sean took the high road there. But disappointing was the word in the locker room, was the word from Sean. He told the team, I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed for you guys. Go and enjoy your Christmas tomorrow. Enjoy it on Tuesday. We'll be back on Wednesday to move forward with this. But as crazy as it is, like I said, everything else went the Broncos' way today. The only other thing that could have gone the Broncos' way that didn't this weekend was yesterday with the Bills just beating the Chargers. But that one, we all kind of wrote it off, so that wasn't a big deal. Everything else with the Broncos' way, I was surprised that there wasn't still just like a little bit of hope in the locker room. Like, man, yeah, this one sucks. Really disappointed. But, you know, we're still just one game back right now. I'm surprised that wasn't the tone in the locker room. It was, damn, we just blew our opportunity. These are games that you need to win for the playoffs. We knew the opportunity that we had pretty much win, and we're in, and we blew it. Jonathan Cooper was just so disappointing. If you want to see how players feel and be able to see that, go check out my Twitter with Jonathan Cooper. You can just you can see just how bummed out he is. There were some F-bombs being thrown around in the Broncos locker room. It's as disappointing as I've ever seen.
Yeah, I think every single person knew the magnitude of this game, and for it to end the way that it did, especially with their kicker hitting the field goal, was brutal. Really quick before we let you go, I need to get your top 5 reasons. We're on number 5, and we were hoping to get your input.
Yeah, we just need one.
We just need one. We have 4.
So, could you bring that up for us so we can read them to Zach?
The graphics a little.
Quick. Okay, yeah, can read them to you.
I
saw it when
you were waiting. Give us number 5, Zach.
Let me know if this one counts. I don't know a short way to say it. Losing to bad teams. The Commanders game, the Raiders game. I know those count as the early losses, but then how about you throw in the Jets? How bad are the Jets, and the Broncos lost to them here in Denver so bad. And then you think the Jets are bad? The Patriots are even worse, and you lost to them here when you knew you had to have it. So four losses right there that I can think of off the very top of my head to trash football teams, and all 4 at home. Oh my goodness. Wow. All 4 of those at home. You got to be fucking kidding me. Jeez.
All right. Let's let Zach go get warm.
Wait, before you go, can we get a full fit fit check real quick? Can we get the? I saw the gloves. You know what I'm saying? I see. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
This is the look, Zac Stevens.
That's it.
Now you know.
My guy popped off.
I'm pretty sure. Didn't Russell Wilson walk in a turtleneck and a nice jacket today?
Yeah, I think this is better.
I think you're rocking this.
I trust Zach.
If I had the flame, I'd give you the flame. You're pulling that off, man. Thank you so much for joining us. Merry Christmas. Get home to your lady and your family. And we appreciate it. We'll see you guys on Tuesday.
Merry Christmas, guys. Bye.
See ya. Oh, man.
4 losses. All at
teams.
home. Yeah. Raiders at home, Commanders at home.
It's bad.
Jets at home and Patriots at home.
Yeah.
And the funniest thing, I don't even want to say funny, that's not the right word. The worst part about this loss is the Patriots were averaging 13 points a game. 3 points worse than last year's Broncos per game. And how many they put up?
They doubled it. 26.
26. Yeah, that's
even
pretty
the
painful.
Chargers defense held them to 0 points.
That is painful. Yeah, that's crazy. Well, you can't sue the Broncos, but if you are in the mood to sue, smash the 2, y'all.
I might try. They have hurt me.
Yeah, for injury. Yeah, definitely do that. When you get hurt by anyone but the Broncos, Backus and Schenker is here to help. They win for Colorado families. They've been helping those who are seriously injured in Colorado for more than 25 years, and you guys know their deal. They're free until they win you money for your case. There's no upfront fee to talk to them about it or while they work on it. There's no fee unless they win you your case. Backus and Schenker has won over $1 billion for their clients, and they're serving all of Colorado. I actually just drove by one of their offices the other day, and I was like, oh, my guys, 222-2222. Smash the 2 for Backus and Schenker. They are always here to help in cases where you were not at fault. Car accidents, motorcycle, rideshare, pedestrian, trucks. Even if you're injured at work, like I mentioned, smash the 222-2222. Backus and Schenker. Check them out and see if you have a case.
And shout out to our friends over at Shady Rays. If you're if you're shopping for some goggles or some sunglasses, check out our friends over at Shady Rays. They are an independent sunglass company that offers a world-class product that's just as good as any expensive pair we've worn. Durable frames and extremely clear optics for outdoor adventures. That's not all. Shady Rays offers the most insane protection in all eyewear. Every pair of sunglasses is backed by lost and broken replacements, meaning if you lose or break your pair, even on day one, they told us they'll send you a brand new pair, no questions asked. Wear your Shady Rays with confidence because they have your back long after you purchase them. And don't just take my advice for them. Over 250,000 people have gave them a 5-star rating, so they got to be pretty good. Shout out to our friends over at Shady Rays. Get yourself a pair or 2.
Shady Rays for your sad eyes over the next few weeks while you mourn the Broncos season. Such a roller coaster of a year. Really quick for our top 5. I think we settled it. Does anybody want to?
Yeah, I mean, you could just throw bad losses. Yeah, losses to bad teams in there.
Bad losses.
Non-dynamic offense, turnover inconsistency.
I feel like there's so much more to this. I feel like it should be a top 10, really.
The Russ-Sean relationship, like maybe you put that in there somewhere, but I think it's kind of like baked into the
Russell Wilson.
Too.
I know. I wonder if you like put parentheses like
Russell Payton.
Or you could just do like quarterback play. I don't know.
Yeah, we can finagle this before we blast it off on
send it
on
out
Twitter.
to the trolls.
Yeah, to the trolls on Twitter and see what they have to say. But before we get out of here on this Christmas Eve, want to just check out our super chats, and we have plenty of them. This first one from Matthew. Hate to bring this up again, but I said it before. The Broncos would be lucky to win against the Patriots. This team deserves what they got. Time to cut Russ and fire the GM. Wow. Hate this team today. Hate, tough word. H, capital H.
Yeah, there's a lot of people out there saying like, I'm done with this team. No, you're not.
Yeah.
But
He'll be back next year.
I understand the feeling right now when the Broncos are just becoming notorious for ruining holidays. Still got the Nuggets tomorrow, though.
Love. Who are they playing tomorrow?
Warriors.
That's going to be a good game.
Yeah.
I like that.
And I think for the first time ever, it's not the 8:30 p.m. slot.
Yeah, I think it's like a noon, isn't it?
Yeah, 12:30. That's at a
time.
weird time for me because I'm supposed to be at my family's house at like 3. And I
You could make it.
You
I'm
watch
going to
the
have to
game.
decide if I want to go early or late.
Yeah, just FUBU it on the way.
There you go.
Oh, I like that. I like that. Let's check this one out from Steven.
Fubo.
Saying that's a wrap. I know.
Fubo is-
I always
you know
say
what
a million things. Yeah. That's a wrap. Can't stand Sean Payton and his play calling. Are you putting a lot of this on the play calling tonight?
I think it goes hand in hand. I think the blame is shared. I don't think it's just the play calling, and I don't think it's just the execution. So I think it's a little bit of everybody.
You know, when Zac said that Sean was kind to Russ or whatever you want to say in his postgame presser, I think it was a small admission that Sean is going to lose a little bit of sleep tonight thinking, I think I shackled him a little bit too much.
Yeah.
I think I needed to take the reins off just a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
Maybe. I'm not saying that for sure, but that's like that was my first reaction when Sean said, yeah, he said I was really proud of the way he battled or something along those lines. Like, I think that when Russ goes to sleep tonight, he'll think, man, maybe I should have opened the game with a fade to Cortland from the 4-yard line rather than
Slant to Jerry.
a slant to Jerry would
For
be
40 yards.
would feed my family for decades. But it never happens. But I don't know. It was everything. It was everything.
Yeah.
Like, obviously you put like you can look and decide who you blame the most, but there was a lot out there to blame.
Are you blaming Sean Payton the most for this loss?
I am, yes.
Yeah. Just want to clarify. Are you blaming Sean Payton the most for this loss tonight?
No.
Who are you blaming? Russ? Defense.
Offense.
Offense.
As a whole.
As a whole.
Can
A
I
unit.
I don't mean to derail us on a holiday night and
Do it,
open
do
up
it.
a can of worms,
Go
but
ahead.
it was something I wanted to talk about that we haven't hit yet. The timeouts.
Oh my God.
Late in the game. Now again, this is one where remember earlier I said like I specifically said kick the field goal.
Yep.
Uh-huh.
This is one where I was really torn.
Yeah.
And this was coaching to win as opposed to not coaching to lose, which I felt like his offensive game plan was coaching not to lose, whereas this was coaching to win. The Patriots basically tell you on first down from whatever it was, they're 20. Like, we're not, or maybe it was even a little further, they're
Look it
30.
up. Yeah.
We're not trying to win right now. We would rather try to win this in overtime.
Yeah.
And John Payton said, no, I'm going to force you guys to make a tougher decision. And had he not done that, we might be talking about something different. That being said, I think he would have been criticized either way, as long as the Broncos didn't win. If he just lets them run the clock out with 3 timeouts, people are saying, what are you doing? Why are you so scared of Bailey Zappe? And if what happened that we saw happens, then you say, why did you dare them to throw the ball down the field and allow them to go beat you? It was a tough one.
Yeah, I honestly feel like he made the right call. I mean, one, you have a offense who hadn't had a third down converted the whole half or the whole fourth quarter at that point. And then you have a kicker who had missed the extra point and missed from 40 something like.
And has been not bad all season.
You're thinking like, yeah, I mean, they may make it a 56-yard, field goal. This guy's not going to make it. Like, that's your thought process of
Yeah.
it. So I understand. And then on top of that, you're thinking we have all the momentum. We are finding a way to win on offense. If we can get this ball back, I know that Russ can give me 20 yards, 30 yards to go down there. We can get a field goal kick. I think it was the right decision.
Yeah, that one I'm not nearly as critical of Sean Payton as I am some of the other ones. I think it's just the combination, though, of like, sure feels like every button he pressed tonight was the wrong one.
Yeah.
That just feels like, the same way we said it just wasn't PS2's day. It just
Yeah.
wasn't Sean Payton's day.
It's like when the Raiders and the Chargers were playing, and then they were about to they were about to tie the game.
Yeah.
so
And they both would have made the playoffs.
And then Brandon Staley calls the timeout. And
Yeah.
Then,
Yeah, Bisaccia was like, all right, F you.
yeah.
What's interesting though is the drive before that. The Broncos went 3 and out, and unfortunately, that momentum that we'd saw them really gaining throughout the fourth quarter really came to a screeching halt, which I think you could probably think maybe played into the decisions to call the timeouts and this and that, whatever. Because clearly, at the very end of the fourth quarter, they weren't moving the ball well.
It's another one where I have an issue with the play call.
Okay.
Like, first down, you need... What did they need to get into field goal range? Where did they start?
So they start at the Denver 39.
You need 20 yards.
Yeah.
And first down, you're throwing the ball 5 yards behind the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
And Pirine has to scramble around just to make it only a loss of 3. You derailed the whole drive. I mean, I said it before the play started. I said the run is actually back in play here.
Yeah.
And hindsight's 20/20, but if you run the ball there, maybe it's 2nd and 7, maybe it's 2nd and 10, maybe it's very unlikely that it's going to be 2nd and 13 when team is expecting pass and you run out of the shotgun. So that one was just like, man, that's rough. And also, it's a double-edged sword again. I'll criticize Russ. You got to see that that's not there, man. Just throw it at his feet.
Yeah,
for sure.
And I don't feel like did a screen work for us at all tonight?
No.
I feel like there was more than one screen that got stuffed in the backfield. Like.
There was one to Mims that worked for like 10 yards.
Yeah. But I just don't know. I don't think we start the game-winning drive that way.
No.
Yeah. For sure.
But it goes back to what we've talked about and what Zach said. Sean doesn't trust Russ. He didn't want to, run a dig route or a slant route or anything that he felt like the ball would be in harm's way on that play.
Yeah.
He wanted to protect the balls.
The offense specifically in the third quarter to come out in the second half the way that they did and to just dig themselves in such a deep hole that they couldn't get themselves out of. And they almost did. They tied up the game, obviously. But to always have to play hero ball is just annoying. It really is, especially when you're facing a 3-11 team. So,
all right.
Anything else you wanted to add while we were off the rails?
No.
Okay.
We're
going to go back to the super chats. Ben Howard, that loss falls on Sean Payton. Bad play calling through 3 quarters. Horrible way to handle the end of the game. He was simply outcoached. Oh, well. Merry Christmas, guys. Merry Christmas to you, Brad. Here we are. Broncos, Lakers. Weird combo.
The name hurts me.
Yeah, don't love that one. O-line has been mid. D-line is Allen and Jones. Rebuild the trenches and add a deep threat
X receiver.
You
have a deep threat X receiver. He just was hurt tonight.
Yeah, that was a bummer.
It would be nice to have another deep threat.
But he's been hurt all season.
Yeah, and then you thought you had it with Mims, and that just completely went away.
Yeah. Okay, let's check out what Kyle said. Thanks so much for the super chat, Kyle. Man, do we even drive up from Dallas for the Chargers game next weekend anymore? Tough decision. I will say, if you're going to the game, a game at Empower Field at Mile High is worth checking out if you haven't ever been. And if you have, well, Colorado's great. It's a great time of year. It's New Year's. It's going to be fun. Come on up. Don't.
I mean,
he's like, I wouldn't.
No, I was going to say I would. Weirdly enough, if they win, they're guaranteed to have a chance going into week 18. Now, again, you're going to need a lot of help one of those 2 weeks, if not both.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But there's still something on the line there. And I'm really praying for it because it'll give us a little bit more intrigue when we for our trip to Vegas.
Yeah, for sure. Here's Preston. Russ has not capitalized once anytime our D has given them opportunities all season, all caps. Only scores garbage time when defenses are dropping back or court bailing him. Back-to-back Christmas dumps. Well, fair enough. 3 people are responsible for this. Russ, Sean, and Baldy. Is this the Baldy jinx?
Damn.
The Baldy jinx? Dustin, tough.
I guess I get to take a little credit because I was really worried about this game.
You
Yeah.
were?
Yeah. I mean, Zach asked me on Thursday and said, is there any reason at all the Broncos should be worried about this game? And I was like, yes. They should be very worried about this game because for the first time in a long time, the vibes around the team were just off. Like, the conversation all week was like, why is Sean screaming at Russ on the sideline? Like, all the good vibes that they built up during the win streak kind of went away when they got blown out by the Lions. And I was like, they're going to have to pull themselves out of it. Like, they're going to have to will themselves back to believing, that they can get this done. And I don't think that's the reason they lost, but it was just they didn't have momentum. They're starting essentially from 0 on the momentum meter, and that's why I was worried.
It is ironic that the conversation all last week was, oh, has Sean Payton lost faith in Russell Wilson? And then we see the game plan here tonight where he has absolutely zero faith in Russell Wilson, which a lot of people would say he never had at any point this season anyways. But it's just an interesting kind of ironic outcome, I guess.
Well, somebody called it.
Somebody called it. Okay, let's check out.
I didn't call it. I still predicted them to win, but I was worried.
Here's Chris. Thanks, DNVR, for the great postgame shows all year. Sex the season had to end like this. Merry Christmas and God bless.
2 more postgame shows.
Two
Two
more.
more.
Magus. Why did Sean keep calling timeouts with 1 minute and 9 seconds left when Pats had the ball? Could have forced OT. Just talked about that. With Merp.
Yep. You could have taken losing in regulation out by not calling timeout.
Yeah, for sure. But here we are. Here's Brandon. Russ continues to make things happen despite what's called. Where's the genius coach getting the most from his players? Should Sean Payton's performance be scrutinized as much as Russ at the end of the season? I think that's what he
Sean's just going to have a longer leash. And Sean has played this right from the beginning. Like, he never wanted to tie his wagon to Russell Wilson from day one. And so he's going to have a scapegoat. And I have a feeling that he's going to play that card, and the Broncos are going to be looking for a new quarterback, and he'll get a new leash to show that he was right. Or if next season we're having some of the same problems, that's when Sean Payton's going to be called into question.
Yeah. And the Broncos have the wealthiest owners in the league who are willing to spend money
on anything.
So they have that going for them. Here's Brandon. Thank you for being here so late. It's therapeutic to talk through all of this. Happy holidays to you and your loved ones. You too, Brandon. We appreciate you sticking with us on this one. Here's Gerardo. You fucking suck, Richard Sherman once said. Who's you?
I don't know.
Danimal.
I mean, we can guess.
Yeah. We had a nice 5-game defensive run that even had me apologizing to VJ, but since then our defense has gone vanilla and failed in big moments. VJ has done well, but not well enough. We need better.
I mean, they gave up 19 points. They weren't horrible.
That's true. That's a winning number.
Yeah, and it was really 16 to the last 2 seconds of the game, but I think you give them 19 points most of the time, you should be able to win. That fumble by Mims is not something that should go on their scorecard, but it does. But I don't think they played horrible. And for most parts of the game, they held them in check. So I don't think it's the defense.
What bothers me is that about the defense tonight, and I actually think they played good enough to win.
Yeah.
You let Bailey Zappe you.
Yeah.
And that bothers me. It's like he ends up 25 of 33 on 7.8 yards per completion, and we know that he hit a couple down the field, but you just let him dink and dunk and dink and dunk and dink and dunk.
Yeah.
And then, they do when someone's building a rhythm that way, then they're feeling better when they throw those, back shoulder fades up the sidelines to Javonte Parker. So I think that there was an idea of like pressure him, but also he doesn't mind getting the ball out quick. Like that's what he wants to do more than anything.
Yeah.
So that was my one issue is I just felt like you allowed him to do what he likes to do.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and then I felt like we did pressure him, and I felt like it didn't really affect him the way I thought it was. And then when we did pressure him, everybody played off defense. Yeah. Like if you know the ball's coming out quick, everybody's get up, let's play press man, and let's try to, get some PBUs, some interceptions. I didn't really work with how we were pressuring him.
Yeah. We can be quick on this one. Would Kareem Jackson have helped out there tonight?
Ooh, interesting thought.
I don't know if that's what he does. I don't know if I remember a time watching and seeing PJ like out of position or in a position where I feel like K-Jack would have done better.
Yeah.
Fair.
I think PJ played a relatively great game. Truly. I think he was a non-factor. Jason Lee, did Todd borrow Kurt Warner's jacket? State of Missouri loves you guys.
No, Kurt borrowed Todd's
yes,
jacket.
sir.
I actually think Todd's jacket is far better too because it's not as puffy, it's not as shiny. There's a lot of good things going on with Todd's jacket and a lot of things that are not going well with Kurt's.
Thank you. I mean, Just a little Montclair. You know what I'm saying? Something
Like there's sheen to it, but
Something
it doesn't look like a Christmas ornament, which I appreciate. So thanks. Here's one from Goody. Tough loss tonight, but thank you guys for being here Christmas Eve. Before the season, we all said that if we went 9-8 and beat the Chiefs, we would be happy. It sucks, but I'm confident in Sean Payton. It's true.
Finishing on 2 wins would be nice.
Yeah, for sure. Mr. Rocket, I'm not blaming Russ, but the contract is a killer trade. Wait, I'm like screwing
The
this
contract
up.
is a killer. Trade the farm for
Trade
2
the
or
farm,
3
okay.
picks. Even if Pat has to go, a stud QB is better than a stud corner.
I needed punctuation. I needed punctuation. in that.
Yeah. Who are we getting?
Yeah, I don't know.
Because no one's trading stud quarterbacks. Now you could maybe trade for Justin Fields.
I think he meant trade for pick number 2 or 3 in the draft.
Oh, okay. So Drake May or Jaden
Penix.
Daniels.
Penix.
Penix, you don't have to get up
That's
that
my
high.
guy. Yeah,
You could
and that's what I'm
probably
saying.
get him where the Broncos are going to be drafting.
Hey,
That'd be nice.
Yeah.
This is a conversation.
It's a game
We can't
plan.
waste this conversation on Christmas Eve.
now we understand
True,
the game
true,
plan.
true.
Yeah,
Got a
we're
whole
gonna need this
offseason
one.
for that.
Yeah. Here's our last one from Ramel. He said, tough, but still believe in Russ, Peyton, and the Broncos. What's done is done. Move on. Merry Christmas, Broncos country, and DNVR. That
Merry
is
Christmas.
a nice
Merry
way
Christmas.
to end it. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Chrysler. No, really, we
Merry
appreciate
Chrysler.
you guys ride with us here tonight. Is there a better Christmas video? I don't think there is. Look, it's our friend Backus and Shaker on the TV.
Oh, there we go.
Hey guys, really just want to thank you all for riding with us here on Christmas Eve. We really, really appreciate it. I'm sorry that we had to come together like this under these circumstances to talk about a Broncos loss, but 2 games left in the season. Like Ryan mentioned, next week, if they win that game, there's still a little bit of a chance, and week 18 is going to be a blast out in Vegas. Hopefully everybody's going to be staying at Circa and going to the game here with a DNVR crew. Guys, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry
Thank
Christmas.
you. Yes, tell the families I said Merry Christmas, and we appreciate you guys. We'll see you on Tuesday for the next DNVR Broncos podcast. Enjoy.
We all silly like the mayor.